You just wrapped up looking at the methods of microbial investigation. We talked all about how to culture and handle microorganisms, right? Well, now we're diving straight into the actual tools that make those investigations physically possible. As future healthcare pros, you're going to rely heavily on someone, maybe even yourself, looking through a clinical lens to identify an invisible threat. So today, we are unpacking exactly how that lens works. Here's our clinical lens progression for today. First, the basics of optical microscopy. Second, mastering resolving power. Third, the optical microscope toolbox. Fourth, electron microscopes beyond light. And finally, TEM versus SEM analysis. Let's get to it.
Section 1. Basics of optical microscopy, the fundamentals of seeing the unseen.
Okay, let's dive into this. To really get optical microscopy, we've got to grasp the core tension at the heart of microscopic physics. You see, it's not just about making things bigger. There is a hard line between size and clarity. Magnification is just the physical capacity of a lens to enlarge the visual dimensions of an object. It brings a tiny microbe past the visual threshold of your eye so you can actually see it. But here's the catch. Making a microbe bigger isn't useful at all unless the image is crisp. And that's exactly where resolution comes in. Resolution is the structural capacity to distinguish two adjacent points as completely distinct, independent entities. Honestly, without resolution, your heavily magnified bacterium, it's just a useless, blurry blob.
So how do we actually get that magnified image right to your eye? It's really a two-phase process. Step 1 happens right down near the specimen. Light rays pass through your slide and hit the objective lens, which bends that light to form a magnified real image right inside the body of the microscope. Then, step 2 takes over. That real image gets projected up through the eyepiece, what we call the ocular lens, and it's magnified a second time to produce an expanded virtual image. That virtual image is what actually hits your eye.
Because the light passes through two totally separate magnifying lenses, calculating your final viewing size is brilliantly simple. The total magnification is literally just the mathematical product of the two lens systems combined. You just multiply the objective power by the ocular power. Easy, right?
Let's look at a concrete mathematical example. Let's say you're looking through a standard ocular lens, which typically has a magnification of 10x. Down on the revolving nose piece, you've clicked the 40x objective lens into place. You simply multiply that 10x ocular lens by the 40x objective lens, which yields a total magnification of 400x, meaning the pathogen you're looking at now appears 400 times larger than its actual microscopic size.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how standard clinical compound microscopes are built. You literally just swap out different objective lenses on a revolving nose piece to get varying levels of detail. You've got your scanning lens at 4x for a nice wide view, the low power at 10x, the high dry at 40x for unstained targets, and finally the heavy hitter, the oil immersion lens at 100x. Pair that 100x with a 10x ocular and you max out optical magnification at 1000x. But, as you'll see in a second, 1000x magnification is utterly useless if the image is blurry.
Section 2. Mastering resolving power, the mathematics of clarity.
This brings us to how allied health investigators actually verify tiny super-specific diagnostic details like bacterial morphology with absolute clarity. We measure this clarity using a formula for resolving power, or RP. Resolving power equals the wavelength of the illumination light divided by 2 times the numerical aperture. Now don't let the math scare you, it just represents two physical realities. First, the wavelength dictates how fine a beam of light you're using. Shorter waves can squeeze between tightly packed cell structures. Second, the numerical aperture, or NA, represents the actual physical capacity of your lens to capture those light rays.
Let's plug some numbers in. Say we use a short blue light wavelength of 400 nanometers and a high-performance lens with a numerical aperture of 1.25. We divide 400 by 2.5, which gives us a resolving power of 160 nanometers. Now, I want you to remember this absolutely crucial rule. Lower values for resolving power mean higher resolution. No, seriously, an RP of 160 nanometers means you can clearly distinguish two objects that are incredibly close together. If your RP was higher, let's say 300 nanometers, those same two objects would completely blur together into a single shape. So remember, lower RP, sharper image.
But to get that crisp resolution at maximum optical power, we kind of have to bend the rules of physics. Glass and air have totally different refractive indices. That means when light leaves the glass slide and hits the air, it bends sharply away from the lens, basically destroying your resolution. To fix this, when we use the 100x objective, we place a single drop of specialized immersion oil right on the slide. This oil perfectly matches the refractive index of the glass, so it creates this continuous, unbroken path that traps the light and channels it straight into the lens barrel, preventing any of that deflection. Pretty neat, right?
Section 3. The Optical Microscope Toolbox. 6 Clinical Configurations.
All right, with magnification and resolution mastered, let's open up the optical toolbox. Now, what's really interesting about this is how different lighting setups completely change what we can diagnose. Bright field is your absolute clinical staple, perfect for preserved, stained bacteria like a gram stain. But what if you have a delicate, living pathogen that can't be stained? That is where dark field shines. It blocks central light so the specimen glows against a pitch-black background. And that's exactly how we identify the live, glowing corkscrew spirochetes that cause syphilis. For internal cell details, phase contrast and DIC manipulate light waves to show deep contrast without any chemicals. Fluorescence? That uses UV light and targeted glowing dyes for rapid automated diagnostics of specific pathogens in tissue. And Confocal uses lasers to build deep, 3D reconstructions of complex microbial biofilms. It really is all about having the right tool for the right job.
Section 4. Electron Microscopes, Beyond Light and Glass.
But what happens when we hit the absolute physical limits of visible light? When we need to see things vastly smaller than a bacterium, like individual viruses or the incredibly fine texture of cell membranes? Well, we have to transition from optical systems to electron systems. Optical scopes rely on low-energy, long-wavelength visible light. Electron microscopes, on the other hand, shoot a focused beam of high-velocity electrons accelerated in a complete physical vacuum. Remember our resolving power formula? It relies heavily on wavelength. Because an electron wave is approximately 100,000 times shorter than a visible light wave, the resolution threshold dramatically drops from an optical baseline of 200 nanometers all the way down to an ultramicroscopic 0.5 nanometers.
And because we aren't using physical light, we obviously can't use physical glass. Glass lenses refract light rays, sure, but an electron beam would just blast right into the glass. Instead, electron microscopes use heavy electromagnetic coils as their lenses. They manipulate the angles of the electron stream using magnetic fields to precisely focus the image onto a digital detector. And because their resolution is so astoundingly crisp due to those tiny wavelengths, the magnification ceiling just absolutely explodes. While optical systems tap out at a useful magnification of about 2000x, electron microscopes can easily push past a massive 1,000,000x magnification. We're talking pulling the deepest secrets of viral capsids and proteins right into plain view.
Section 5. TEM vs. SEM Analysis. 2 views of the ultramicroscopic.
Let's move to the practical application and see how this all builds together. In the ultramicroscopic world, we primarily use 2 dominant microscopes, and they give us 2 totally different perspectives. The first is the transmission electron microscope, or TEM. In TEM, the electrons are transmitted directly through an ultra-thin slice of a specimen treated with heavy metals. Think of it like cutting a cross-section. The scanning electron microscope, or SEM, takes a very different approach. Instead of slicing, the beam systematically scans back and forth across the intact surface of a whole specimen that has been totally coated in a thin layer of protective metal. The primary electrons bounce off, knocking secondary electrons loose, which are then captured by a detector.
So, the crucial point here is the visual result. Because TEM cuts through the sample, it yields extremely detailed, 2-dimensional internal cross-sections. You get to actually see inside the cell. Dense viral cores appear dark, open cytoplasm appears bright. SEM, on the other hand, bounces off the outside. It produces incredibly realistic, highly resolved 3-dimensional surface topography maps. Basically, TEM lets us look inside the factory, SEM lets us map the outer walls, the cilia, and the external viral budding.
So you now understand the physics of magnification and resolution. You know exactly how optical and electron microscopes manipulate light and electrons to reveal the hidden microscopic world. But knowing the instrument is really only half the battle. Think about it. You could have $1 million electron microscope with perfect resolving power, but if your clinical sample isn't prepped correctly, you're going to see absolutely nothing. So how do we actually wrangle, fix, and dye these invisible threats so they don't just wash right off the glass?
Well, that perfectly tees us up for our next explainer, where we're going to focus entirely on preparing specimens for optical microscopes. You won't want to miss it.